Before we get started, if you haven't seen the other videos in this series with the #1 Bloodhound and #1 Gibraltar players in the world, they're linked down below in the description, but make sure to leave a comment on which legend you'd like to see in this series next, and subscribe so you don't miss it when it comes out. But for now, let's jump straight into the video. My name is Nickel O'Nickel, and today we're going to talk to the #1 Pathfinder in the world and see how we got there from his own perspective.
I'm Al. I play Pathfinder a lot. I'm #1 on him right now, and I'm at 11,500 kills.
That is crazy. When did you start playing Apex Legends?
Played him on day one.
How'd you hear about the game the first time you played it?
I had a couple friends come to me, and they're just talking about the game, and I figured I'd give it a try. At the time, I was a Blackout player primarily, so I was ready for something new.
Do you still play a lot of Blackout now?
No, I don't touch that game at all anymore.
So why did you choose Pathfinder? What was the reasoning behind that? Was it Pathfinder from the very beginning?
Yeah, Pathfinder from the start. I just really like the idea of having a grappling hook, the added depth and mobility to the game.
Do you have any like go-to grappling spots that you find yourself using all the time in certain areas of the map or certain buildings, anything like that?
Yeah, there's a lot of areas in Skulltown where you can just launch yourself across the other end of the map pretty much. Or, well, not the other end of the map, but the other end of the town. You can just control the rooftops really easily.
So most of those, are you trying to just use it to try and keep the high ground advantage?
Yeah, constantly staying on the move, just hitting people from different angles constantly.
Do you have any spots that are kind of like what you consider to be really unexpected spots to see a Pathfinder pop out? Have you ever seen something that like really surprised you when you saw a Pathfinder? Maybe you did it yourself that just totally took the enemy by surprise. Well, one I see kind of somewhat regularly, to give you an example, is there's a building where it has an opening on two sides, and I saw a Pathfinder kind of just start shooting and then swing around the outside of the building and come back in. Do you have anything like that you ever see or use?
There's a spot in the bunker at the hydro plant, like next to Repulsor, you know that bunker in that area?
Yeah.
There's some pipes, like by the stairs, basically. You can just go up onto the ceiling, essentially, and you can see those doors at the top of the stairs by standing on top of the pipes. I sit there sometimes during scrims.
So one of the questions that I actually haven't asked in any of these videos yet in the series, but a lot of people in the comments keep reminding me to ask, do you have any issues with running into hackers in the game? Do you feel like that's as big of a problem as people make it sound in the comments, or how do you see that?
Yeah, it's definitely a bit of an issue right now. I'd say I run into at least one a day.
What's an obvious tell when you could figure out that somebody's a hacker?
Dying instantly, pretty much. Usually they run Spitfires, and you'll get aim punched immediately when you have armor. So it'll knock your aim around. That means they're headshotting you. And if you're just only getting headshotted, then you can kind of, you can feel it out.
One of the biggest threads about Pathfinder was actually one where somebody suggested an idea that could be added to Pathfinder, where you know how you can use your grapple on enemies? Well, the idea was to be able to use the grapple on downed friendlies. Do you think that would be something that would add a lot of value or any value at all to Pathfinder? Something you'd want to see in the game?
It could definitely be helpful, but at the same time, it could be used to troll your teammates in the wrong hands. So,
if it was only able to work when they were downed, do you think it'd still be a pretty bad troll tool?
Yeah, you could definitely troll people with it, but I think it'd be a cool addition.
Do you have any thoughts on any situations when you could get the most value out of grappling your enemies?
When they're running from you. You want to grapple them when they're not facing you, so it's harder for them to just pump you while you're coming in, because they can shoot you while you're grabbing them.
Do you ever try to grapple them when they're on the zip lines? Have you ever seen stuff like that?
Yeah, you can pull people off zip lines like that.
Is that something you regularly do?
No.
One of the things that people always talk about for sure is hitbox size, and I think Pathfinder is the third biggest hitbox, I believe. Do you think that's ever an issue? Do you ever feel like Pathfinder's hitbox is ever a problem for you?
Prior to this patch, it was definitely an issue. You're constantly getting one-pumped by peacekeepers and losing wingman trades because you're massive. But they tweaked his hitbox, and it's smaller now, but it's also broken. His arms and legs actually don't take damage at the moment. At
all?
Yeah, at all. You'll hit him, and it will actually not do damage.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So right now, his chest and his head are the only thing working.
Wow.
Yeah, it's bugged.
Where do you think Pathfinder's passive stacks up against some of the other passives in the game? Do you think it's like better or worse than any of the other passives?
In public games, it's probably the most useless, just because those games go by so quickly. You rarely see yourself going into like Zone 4 or Zone 5 or anything like that. But in competitive play, it shines through really well, because you can just play around beacons and constantly be prepared with rotations.
What do you think is the strongest passive then? In either situation, in competitive ones or just in public games?
Probably Lifeline or Bangalore. Bangalore, Lifeline, and Octane actually all have really strong passives.
How do you feel about Octane? Do you think he's strongly or weakly against Pathfinder at all? Or do you think it's like what do you think about the character since he is at the time of recording the newest character?
He's a good alternative to Pathfinder. They both do things very differently.
In terms of like mobility, or what do you mean?
Yeah. So Pathfinder, you're repositioning a lot more on Pathfinder. Just hitting people from where they wouldn't expect you to be during fights. Like you'll choose someone, reposition, they don't know where you're at, them again. Whereas Octane's much more in your face. You're gonna be rushing opponents, and it's not very hard to keep track of an Octane, especially when he's got his Q active because it's constantly making that noise.
Do you think that Pathfinder is the strongest legend overall?
He's definitely top tier right now. I'd either say Wraith or Pathfinder top tier.
Who do you think is the weakest, the lowest tier?
Gibraltar or Caustic.
Is that mostly just because of the hitbox size, or what do you think that?
Hitbox, as well as just their abilities, aren't very good. Well, Gibraltar is good ability-wise, but Caustic is useless. I feel like he's a detriment to his team.
Yeah, well, they definitely are affected by the smoke, so that's an issue.
Yeah.
So what do you think is like the weakest part of Pathfinder then? Like if there was one part that could be changed by Pathfinder, what would you change?
His passive. I think they need to add more beacons, just make it so that every beacon spawns.
So change the environment to make his current passive stronger. That's actually pretty interesting.
Yeah, because right now it's really reliant on RNG and no other passives in the game are like that.
One of the questions that also is really popular among people commenting is about bunny hopping, bee hopping, because there was some kind of dev thing a little while back where they said they were going to remove it. So what's your opinion on bunny hopping? Do you use it? And if so, or if not, do you think it should be removed like they were talking about doing?
Yeah, I use it. I think it's a good thing to keep in the game. It adds a layer of like a skill ceiling, pretty much. It increases the skill ceiling. You'll see the higher tier players bunny hopping while newer players aren't going to be. I don't know. I don't think it should be removed. I think it's good how it is.
So if they do go through with what they stated in that comment and they do actually take it out because it was unintended, how do you think that's going to affect play in Apex? Do you think it's going to make things...
It's going to slow things down at a higher level.
So right now, the time we're recording, the Battle Pass is still relatively new. There was a whole like cacophony of different opinions on that. Did you have any thoughts on the Battle Pass itself? I know some people were saying it's not worth it at all. It's just a complete waste. Some people thought it was actually pretty good.
I think they definitely could have done a lot more with the skins. They're really underwhelming. And like for a level 100 skin, them putting a Havoc there, really disappointing. Like I don't know anyone who really likes the Havoc. Plus it's 30,000 experience per level, which is almost double what it is for a normal level in game. I don't know. It just seems like they just threw something in front of us to grind for, but there's nothing really interesting to actually get.
So when we did a video like this with the top Gibraltar guy, he was saying that there are certain guns that shine with Gibraltar specifically. Like, so the best guns overall are the best guns overall, but then he thinks that certain guns work better with Gibraltar specifically. Do you think there are any guns that are stronger in the hands of Pathfinder as opposed to any other hero?
That's heavily reliant on your playstyle. For me, the R99, Peacekeeper, Wingman, R301, those are all really good options. Typically, I try to avoid things like the Spitfire, the Longbow, G7, anything like that. I play really aggressive, so I like to run close range weapons.
So obviously, Apex is a game of, you're in a team of 3. There was a lot of kind of theory crafting around what the game would be like if there ever was an option where you could solo queue into a game where it's just, nobody's on a team, everyone is solo. Do you think that's something that could work, or would you even want to see something like that in the future for the game?
No, I'm not really interested in seeing that. I think it stands out as a team game rather than as a solo pub stomping game, kind of like, I guess, like Blackout was.
You obviously have an insane amount of kills. How much are you practicing a day?
I've slowed down a little bit. The first couple of weeks, I'd say, first week or two of the game being out, I played 15 hours a day.
Oh my god.
Now I'm playing anywhere from 5 to 10 hours a day.
Wow, that's 7 days a week?
Yeah.
Dang.
Now you're grinding, man.
Yeah. At what point in that do you start feeling like fatigued? How many hours in until you start feeling tired?
Probably around the 7 hour mark. It starts to get hard.
Oh man, going, so potentially half the session you're like.
I'm tired, but I'm just pushing through it, man.
Dang.
Gotta keep going.
Keeping that #1 top spot. Do you plan on holding it to the top spot forever, or what's your thoughts on that?
Unless another character comes out that I think is just infinitely better than Pathfinder, then I don't think I'm gonna be going anywhere. I think I'll be staying on Pathfinder for the foreseeable future.
Since you played so much, you probably have a better perspective on this than a lot of people, but what do you think is, or if there is any, most effective way to kind of get better at Pathfinder? If you only had, let's say, 2 hours a day day, what things would you focus on to kind of get the most value out of your time with Pathfinder? To focus on practicing, I guess I could say.
You got to practice smooth movements with your mouse. That's something that's really important with them. If your movements are really jittery or snappy while you're grappling, it's gonna mess with your momentum. Anyone who's familiar with surfing and Counter-Strike knows what I mean. It's really similar to that in the way the mechanics work, with air strafing and everything like that.
When it comes to the grapple itself, is there a certain technique that you think is better to use with it, or any tips just using the grapple in general to get the most value out of that itself?
Well, there's a lot of different type of hooks. So there's ones for verticality, ones for straight just distance where you're just trying to get really far. I guess for vertical grapples, you kind of want to make like a catapult motion. So you want to start under the wall and then move away from it after you hook it, and it'll just pull you up. You can kind of get some good distance that way. And then there's also things like ground hooks where you just jump as soon as you hear your hook hit the ground. Or at least that's the way I do it. I know some people just wait to see their hook hit the ground, but personally I just rely on the audio.
So how many those general different grappling styles do you think there are? Is that like, those are like 4 general ones? Like for the major ones you see all the time, like vertical, ground hooks?
Yeah, I'd say there's like 4 or 5 different techniques that I use often. So ground hooks, hooks intended to just, give you verticality, where your goal is to get as much height as possible. Hooks for distance, so you're just trying to get as far as you can across the map horizontally. There's techniques for using your hooks in combat, which are risky, but like most of the time you want to use your hook for an escape, but you can use them in combat just for dodging. Like it's helpful. You can use it to engage, but generally I use it to dodge peacekeeper shots.
Oh.
If I ever see someone with a peacekeeper or a wingman, generally I will go for one pump of my peacekeeper first and then grapple the wall to go above them to throw off their aim and then hit them again.
So something that has happened with me all the time, and I'm just always curious about seeing how it plays out with other people, but do you get these constant game crashes all the time, or is that something you're not really affected by?
Not as often as other people, but my game does just kind of close sometimes. I don't get any error messages or anything. It'll just close.
Okay. I haven't been able to play this last week or so because I've been pretty sick, but before that it was pretty frustrating. Just randomly game crashes in the middle of a match sometimes, and for some people I hear that happens to them just as much as it happens to me, but for other people I hear that it almost never happens to them. So I'm always just wondering why is it like kind of inconsistent,
What fixed it for me, like the first week I was having a lot of crashes. I just moved my game onto my SSD and that fixed it pretty much.
Who in the game do you think has the most powerful ultimate?
100% Gibraltar. That thing can kill you so easily. Does 40 damage per bomb.
So best ultimate but worst legend.
Yeah. His abilities are really strong, but his just hitbox is terrible in the current meta.
Who do you think would come after Gibraltar's the second most powerful?
Either Bangalore or Lifeline. Bangalore, because her ult has such good disengage and engage to it. Like you can use it to either run or you can use it to push someone when they're stunned. And Lifeline, she can give the full team purple body armor. Like just the chance of purple body armor coming from her package is insane. It's really valuable.
And who do you think has the worst ultimate?
Probably, honestly, Octane. I think his launchpad's terrible.
Oh, really? Why is that?
I just see no reason to pick Octane when you can pick Pathfinder. If your whole point is repositioning, then I don't know. I don't really see it as a viable option to engage either. I see people launch padding into other teams, and I feel like it's just way too easy to get shot out of the air. Yeah.
Where do you think that Pathfinder's ultimate kind of falls on that between Gibraltar and Octane?
He's kind of in the same spot as Octane, where it's not very good. It's good for repositioning your whole team, but it has no offensive abilities really.
Yeah.
If you're just ziplining onto people and they're decent players, you're just getting shot off it.
I wonder if that's part of the reason why they make the it charge up so fast, because Pathfinder's ult charges really fast.
1% per second.
Yeah, it's super. Is that the fastest in the game? I actually don't even know that.
I'm pretty sure it is, yeah.
So when you play, do you have a dedicated team of people that you always play with?
No, I'm actually looking for a team right now.
Oh, okay. So are you going to try and go competitive professional Apex?
Ideally, yeah, that's what I'm looking to do.
That's awesome.
I really want to get involved in the competitive scene and be as in it as I can be, I guess.
So before Apex, you said you played Blackout. What were you playing before Blackout came out?
Counter-Strike, Overwatch. I've got a whole bunch of different stuff I did.
Who'd you main in Overwatch?
I was Widowmaker and Genji. I played through season 1 and 3, and then I quit when the triple tank meta came out because I couldn't be bothered.
Were you playing CSGO competitively?
Yeah, I was rank A in ESEA, Global Elite in matchmaking, and I only played for some open teams.
What about in Overwatch? Did you play that competitively?
Yeah, I played in open leagues for that too. I never really got into any invite leagues or anything like that.
So what do you think needs to be added to the game or change with the game to kind of keep you interested or just keep people interested in general?
Add more weapons. And don't go crazy with specialist abilities or legend abilities. You don't want to see one character getting added to the game that's going to completely flip the meta on its head.
Yeah.
I don't think that's healthy for the game at all. Because then you're going to have a hero that's pretty much picked every single game on every single team.
Yeah. So do you think that just adding guns alone will be enough to kind of keep the interest pretty high? Or do you think they're going to have to do other stuff like change the regions of the map?
They're going to have to do map changes too, definitely. Some of the places are terrible.
Would you be interested in adding like new types of items in general? Like obviously Fortnite is a comparable example where they add more than just weapons. They add like a lot of different random stuff.
Glue, gliders, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like cosmetics or stuff actually in the game?
Stuff actually in the game.
I don't really know what they could add, honestly.
Yeah, because you'd have to play against all the abilities and everything too.
Yeah. I heard they might add vehicles, but I don't know about that one.
Really?
I feel like the game doesn't really need it. The map is so small.
Yeah, that would change things quite a bit if they added some vehicles in there. So when you drop, do you have any favorite drop spots?
Skulltown is generally where I always go.
Is that mostly because you're trying to hunt down as many kills as possible?
Yeah, I'm a hot dropper.
Do you feel like Pathfinder in particular has an advantage there?
Yeah, you can play the rooftops to your advantage constantly. Also, like I said, you can literally fling yourself from one side of the town to the other. So
Yeah.
if you're ever in a sticky situation, you can just get out immediately. Anywhere that you can look up and hook something and just reposition, like Repulsor, Skulltown, and one other area that I'm thinking of, Thunderdome, are really good areas to fight on Pathfinder. Whereas places like Cascades, you'll struggle a little bit, and Artillery is another good spot.
It sounds like you use the Pathfinder ult mostly to disengage. Is that accurate or no?
I use it before fights typically to get my team in a position where like we're starting the fight from a good position.
So do you have any tips like on any specifics of like when to get the most value out of the ultimate? Certain situations you see over and over again, why you would want to position or how you would position them to get the most value out of it?
Always just look to get your team somewhere high up, just verticality.
Okay, you're always prioritizing just getting as high as possible.
Yeah, generally. As long as that area's got a good line of sight on what you're shooting at, it's all situational.
Any gear stuff that you think is like helpful to you? I guess mouse, monitor, keyboard, stuff like that. Anything you think is particularly useful, you can mention that. I know you have a 2 PC setup, right? So that helps with having really high frame rate. But is there anything beyond that you think is kind of like your must-have? You got to play with it?
If you're not playing on 144 hertz, you're on a massive disadvantage.
Yeah, totally.
In my opinion. If you're a 60 hertz player, you need to get the upgrade to 144 hertz as soon as you can if you play FPS. Personally, I've never used 240 hertz, but I've heard really good things about them. But you really need to have a beefy rig to
power
get 240 hertz used, yeah.
I saw a pretty crazy little clip where this guy, he has like this 3 zipline kind of combo where what does he do? He throws out his ult first, and then he uses his Q to get up, and then he lands right on one of the built-in ziplines, and he basically like traverses like an insane amount of distance all at once. Do you have any places that are kind of like that you repeat your pattern of, let's say Skulltown, for example. You look at Skulltown and you say, oh, I always do the same thing where I do zipline, grapple, and then I end up here because it tends to be a lot of people here. Do you have anything like that at all?
There's a lot of grapples that I find myself repeating. Like generally I try to find good locations to grapple, and I'll remember if I got a really good fling. Like if I got really good distance, I remember that spot, and I just keep trying to practice it whenever I go through that area.
What would be one of those spots?
There's some bones by Skulltown. If you're like rotating towards Market, there's like 3, they're like ribs. The one furthest to the right, you can grapple off that and fling yourself all the way to the houses outside of Market. Like the closest house is to Skulltown. Also, I can see if I can try to find a clip of this one for you. It's a Skulltown one. It's off one of the rooftops.
But that is all the questions I had. So just so people remember, just state your stream URL one more time and let everyone know when you stream.
Yeah, I go live every single day. I try to stream at 5 p.m. Eastern, twitch.tv/alberlelli. You're probably going to have to put that on screen because I doubt they'll be able to spell it.
I will definitely put it on screen. And it'll also be linked in the description of this video for you guys to go check out. Definitely drop them a follow, show them some love, and enjoy the streams.
Yeah.